Hi, my name is Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel, and this is the end of the year book tag. You know the drill. The original was by Ariel Bissett. We're just going to get into the questions. Question 1. Are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? So, I only read one book at a time. So, generally speaking, I don't have books that are hanging over, for months waiting to be read. However, I do have this book. So this is Happy Stories Mostly by Norman Erickson Passeribo, translated by Tiffany Tsao. This is a short story collection which I bought in April. I started to read in June and I haven't finished. So you can see I'm about 2/3 through, and the reason why I haven't finished is because I'm sort of struggling with these a little bit. I do generally like short stories. I'm just finding I'm just struggling to connect with them. So I've stopped here in the middle of one of the stories. So how many have I got left? So, not including the one that I'm partway through, which I'll probably just give up on. I've still got 2 more stories to finish. So I guess it would be nice to finish this year, because this has been sort of hanging around for a while. This was on this year's International Long List, which is where I heard about it. So yeah, if I'm going to finish it, I may as well try and get it done this year. That's the only one really that I think I need to finish before the year is out. Question 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? I don't have a specific book, but I do like to lean into spooky season, read some horror, read some gothic books. And another thing I like to do at this time of year is get into some rereading, because it just feels like a cosy thing to do. Question 3, is there a new release you're still waiting for? I think there's 2 library books that I've ordered, which I think they are both published now, but I wasn't first in the queue for them, which is annoying because I like to be first in the library queue. And they are both short story collections, actually. So there's A Sliver of Darkness by C.J. Tudor, which is horror stories, and then there's Marple, which is an anthology of various short stories that different authors have written, featuring the character of Miss Marple. So both those books hopefully will be winging their way to me in the next month or so. Question 5. No. Question 4. What are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? So I've got 2 books that I want to reread before the end of the year, and I've got 2 books that I want to read for the first time before the end of the year. So my 2 ones that I want to reread, and I have mentioned these previously, are The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde and Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. So I'll probably be reading them in the next couple of months. And then there's 2 books which, when I bought these books, I was super excited about them, and I can't believe that I haven't read them yet, which is why I would like to read them before the end of the year. So the first is Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi. This is the prequel to Pet, and I bought this in April, I think not long after it had been published, and I have no idea why I haven't read it yet, because I loved Pet. So I'm sure I'm going to love this. I really like Akwaeke Emezi. So I'd like to read this by the end of the year. And then also The Story of a Brief Marriage by Anouk Arud-Pragasa. So Anouk Arud-Pragasa wrote A Passage North, which I read last year. It was on last year's Booker shortlist. It was one of my favourite books of last year. And straight after reading that, I bought this secondhand. This was his previous novel, with the intention of pretty much reading it straight away, and certainly reading it before the end of last year. Obviously, we're a year on, and for some reason, I have no idea why, I haven't read this yet. So this is another one that I would very much like to get to before the end of the year. Question 5. Is there a book that you think could still shock you and become your favourite book of the year? So, I mean, this is hard to answer, isn't it? Because if it's going to shock me, that indicates it's a book which I'm not expecting to love. So I don't know how I could predict that, really. But I think, as I've seen everyone else say when they've answered this question, of course you would want to, find more books that you love, because that's like why you read, isn't it, really? But I don't particularly have anything earmarked as expecting. I don't really have 5-star predictions, because often it's hard to tell if I'm going to love a book or just DNF it. Question 6. Have you already started making reading plans for next year? So the answer to this is kind of. I have thought about reading plans for next year, but the conclusion that I've come to so far is that I'm probably not gonna make many reading plans, because I don't really plan my reading that much anyway. I just like to read what I want to read when I want to read it. I have a couple of vague plans. So my first plan is to continue with rereading all of Sarah Waters' books. So far I've reread 2 of 6. So I've reread Affinity and The Night Watch. I've got Fingersmith to read by the end of the year. And then next year I'll have The Little Stranger, which I'll probably save for October, The Paying Guests and Tip in the Velvet. And then my other sort of vague plan is probably to follow the Women's Prize again, which I've done for the last couple of years and really enjoyed doing. That is dependent on 2 factors. Firstly, my library having available copies of the books that are longlisted and shortlisted, and secondly, me actually wanting to read those books, because that was a bit of a problem with the Booker Prize this year. I read the Booker shortlist last year, but I've not done any Booker reading this year because my library has hardly any of the books, and the ones that they do have I've either already read or have no desire to read. But we seem to have more success with the Women's Prize, so hopefully Women's Prize for next year. Other than that, I don't really have any any other plans. That is the end of the tag. I'm not going to tag anyone because everyone's going to do this tag anyway. However, if you don't have a channel and you want to answer these questions, then please feel free to do so in the comments below and tell me about your reading plans for what remains of this year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.